Welcome to my kitchen. Today I wanted to show you how to make one of my new favorite recipes from Bread Baking for Beginners by Bonnie Ohara, owner and baker of Alchemy Bread. I'd like to teach you how to make a focaccia bread, which is a very simple Italian flatbread. Ingredients we're going to need today are instant yeast. This is not active dry yeast. You want the instant or rapid rise yeast. You're going to want some sea salt, olive oil, all-purpose flour. I recommend the King Arthur brand flour. Has high protein. You need a cooking sheet, a roasting pan, and a flour kitchen towel. Ideally, you would also have a kitchen scale and thermometer. Now that we weighed all of our ingredients separately for more precise measurements, I did want to convert them into cups for you. So this is our lukewarm water. We're going to sprinkle the yeast in here to get it activated. And we're just going to swish our hands as if we were checking the temperature of a bubble bath. You should see some bubbles forming here. Now that our yeast is bubbling, we know it's active, lively, and ready for us to work. We're going to sprinkle the flour on. We want to do the salt last so it has less contact with the yeast. And then this is the messy part, but you're just going to gently mix it all together. You can use a wooden spoon if you prefer. The dough should come together fairly easily. You should have a wet, slack dough. Now, let your dough gently rest for about 20 minutes so the flour can absorb into the water. We're going to do some gluten development. So we're going to stretch and fold the dough. Imagine if this is a clock. You're going to go from 12 to 6, and you're going to go from 3 over to 9. You're going to keep going as you work your way around the clock. You want it to form a nice tight ball. Now that we've achieved some gluten development, we want to let this rest for an hour and a half, and we do want to place a kitchen towel over it, either near an oven that you've just put on to create some warmth, or you can place it in the oven with it off if it's drafty. Now that our dough is rested for an hour and a half, it should look like this, much more full, and should feel like a light and airy marshmallow. So now what we're going to do, into a quarter cup, we're going to take some olive oil. You're going to just use about half of it. Just spread it around on your sheet. Now gently tip out your dough. Then you're going to take the rest of your oil and very gently you're going to stretch your dough out to the whole rectangle. Your dough might shrink back again, but once it relaxes, it will eventually make its way to the corners. At this point, you want to turn your oven to 475. And then you want to finish dimpling your dough without knocking any air bubbles out. And then you can add any toppings. I'm probably going to do Parmesan, and I'm going to cut some cherry tomatoes. While our dough is resting and our oven is heating, we're going to take this roasting pan and fill it with about 1 inch to 1.5 inches deep with water. You can use cold water, warm water. We're going to heat it up in the oven with it to create some steam for the focaccia. So now that we have the roasting pan emitting steam on the bottom rack, we're going to place this on the top rack for 10 minutes. So now we're going to carefully remove the water, the roasting pan, and we're going to allow the steam, any remaining steam, to escape from the oven. Currently looks like this. We're going to go back in for 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll be done. So now our focaccia is done. It's at the right golden brown color that we'd like to see. If you want to do it a little bit longer, you can. You want to let it cool on a rack for about 15 minutes before serving it. When this is done cooling, we're going to cut it into large squares. You can serve this with a salad, a soup, or just as is, like a makeshift pizza. Thanks for joining me today in my kitchen. I hope you had fun. Check out Bread Baking for Beginners.